I'm holding in my baby brown libertarian fingers a letter from the Concerned Veterans of America, written to Senate Leader Thune and House Speaker Johnson. Quote, on behalf of thousands of veterans, military families, and grassroots activists around the country, we write to offer our strong support for the bipartisan supported Veterans Access Act of 2025. The VA Mission Act created the Veterans Community Care Program, which allowed millions of veterans to seek care outside of the VA when appointments were too far away or not available soon enough. Unfortunately, the Biden VA undermined implementation, violating the letter and spirit of the law by restricting access to community care options. Extensive Freedom of Information Act records reveal that the VA manipulated wait times to reduce community care eligibility, did not tell vets when they were eligible for community care. It even trained schedulers to attempt to dissuade veterans from using care when they requested it. End of quote. My guest co-founded a veterans program at the City University of New York. He has a BA in International Relations, earned a master's in public administration. He has deployed in combat and conflict zones in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia, as well as on Ground Zero in New York City in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. He is the Strategic Director of Concerned Veterans of America. Please welcome to the program, Mr. John Byrnes.
Thanks for having me on today.
John, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Tell me why we need this Veterans Access Act.
So as you mentioned, we had the Mission Act passed back in 2018, signed into law by President Trump. The VA rolled it out on June 6, 2019, June 6, 2019, so a year after it passed. And it, as you said, set up that community care program. In the aftermath, the Biden VA began to roll it back. Even under President Trump and Secretary Wilkie, they weren't particularly eager at the bureaucratic level to roll it out. But it put all of this community care into the VA regulation, the internal regulations of the VA, so that when the VA did all of those things to violate the act that you just mentioned, they're essentially only violating an internal regulation handled by the VA Inspector General, an internal matter. As long as the secretary is friendly, then no harm, no foul. What the new Veterans Access Act would do would enshrine those community care access standards into federal statutory law. So if they violated that, it would now be able to go to the Justice Department for actual prosecution of violation of the law. So this reinforces veterans' access to those community care options.
What was Biden's rationale for rolling it back? Why didn't he go forward with it?
Well, there are certain presidents on certain sides of the aisle that tend to be, at the mercy of bureaucracies. Federal unions and their funding of a particular political party might have something to do with that. I mean, the VA is one of the largest employers of federal employees in the American Federation of Government Employees Union. There are other unions at the VA that they do have a lot of sway. They don't like the idea of community care. They're afraid that it'll put some number of them out of jobs. Mm-hmm. So all of this came into play. And again, folks like Joe Biden, his VA secretary, they're happy to let bureaucrats run things. They're believers in the administrative state. Concerned Veterans of America, like a lot of other folks, that we know, we're believers in the power of Congress, the power of the executive, a unitary executive, where the bureaucracy is not in charge or elected officials.
John, I thought it was a big deal, as I recall, that Trump said that if you can't get care at your VA, if the wait lines are too long, you can go to a private facility or another facility. I thought that was a big deal. I thought that was a law that he had done.
So it was a law that said the VA had to set up these regulations, and there was a lot of input. But at the end of the day, the law only says they have to set up these access standards as a regulation. This would reinforce that. This has bipartisan support, as you said. There are two different versions of the bill. There's a House version. There's a Senate version. The House version is much better, but the Senate version has bipartisan support. Concerned Veterans for America has been pushing very hard. We've actually had our volunteers and activists make over 1 million phone calls to folks to get them to call their senators, their members of Congress, to push that through. We've been putting a lot of pressure on them. We really expected it to pass by Veterans Day and have had the President Trump able to sign it by Veterans Day. The government shutdown, Schumer's shutdown got in the way. So it's been delayed. We're still hoping to get it passed by Christmas and signed, before the full break in session on the 19th of December.
Now, John, call me naive. Even in this era of Trump derangement syndrome, I would think this would be a slam dunk. I would think this would be bipartisan. I can't imagine why or who would vote against it.
Well, there was a lot of wrangling in the Senate, and the reason we like the House version better is the House doesn't have a closure rule and a filibuster rule and the need for 60 votes. So the House version has no sunset. It essentially makes this a law and it stays a law. The Senate version right now has a sunset negotiated by the ranking member on the VA committee, Senator Blumenthal, that says, after 8 years, this provision, it's no longer statutory law, it goes back to regulation, forcing everybody back to the table. Still, they believe that it's worth doing at least for 8 years.
Now,
again, Schumer's shutdown got in the way. There's a lot of animosity in both houses of Congress. Getting this from passing out of committee, the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, to the floor now, there's a lot of things that are important that are ahead of it. There are energy bills. There's the ACA issue. There's the especially important National Defense Authorization Act and all of the amendments that are in that tree. So all of this is at Concerned Veterans for America, cv4a.org online. And if you want to support the act, you have the opportunity to do that there as well. But yeah, we thought this was going to pass by Veterans Day.
As he mentioned, to support this Veterans Access Act, go to cv4a.org. I noted that you were an officer in the Marines. My dad was a Montford Point Marine. My little brother was in the Army. My older brother was in the Navy. I'm the only one who never really served. They all use the VA. What's the quality of the VA?
So just a couple of things. I am a non-commissioned officer of both the Army and the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. Marine Corps first. So made corporal, senior sergeant in the Army, but not an officer. The VA is a mixed bag. It's like any other healthcare system. I love some of my providers there. I got some really good specialist care from a center of excellence here in North Carolina, where the VA in Durham partners with Duke Hospital right across the street. They share resources. They share doctors. Fantastic. Other times, I've been much happier going outside the system, getting community care. Community care for urgent care and for emergency care works. It's something that everybody loves. I don't have to go to the VA emergency room, which is a 2-hour drive. I go to local emergency room, report it, the VA pays for it. Regular primary care and specialty care should work the same way.
So, John, set me straight. Is a non-commissioned officer not an officer?
It's an officer who is not holding a federal commission, right? So, corporals, sergeants major are non-commissioned officers, lieutenants and up are commissioned officers. There are those amongst my fellow NCOs who would hold me accountable for not, impressing upon you how much better it is to be an NCO than a commissioned officer.
I got you. My dad was a NCO staff sergeant. We only have a few seconds. One word: how is America treating its vets?
America loves its vets. It just needs to know what's going on with us. There's a disconnect between vets and civil society that is certainly, healable. Want to do that. Vets are huge contributors. One of our goals is to get more vets in the game.
cv4a.org. John Byrnes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you for having me on, Larry.
You got it.
Have a great night.